Hey guys, Haikrazon here with my first actual Platinum overview. If you watched my introduction video, you may remember me mentioning something about finding a middle ground for games to cover. While this will be a variety channel, I think this is a really good example of what made me want to start a series like this in the first place. Today, I'm covering Chernobylite. Chernobylite is an awesome indie title that mixes FPS, stealth, crafting, survival, some solid base building, and Russian horror. Now, I think this game is decently well known for being indie, but being primarily a console player, sometimes original PC releases kind of fly under the radar for me. I remember my roommate coming into my office and asking if I had ever heard about it or if it got a console release. I checked the PlayStation Store and there it was. I watched the trailer and that was enough to sell me on it. Now, just a heads up, I did play this as a base game without DLC on PS4. There may have been changes on the PS5 version or with some of the extra content. So, Chernobylite has you playing as a Ukrainian scientist that's trying to figure out what happened to his wife. This leads you to the massively radiated location of Chernobyl, right, obviously, where you'll navigate several maps for survival, resources, new teammates, and of course story bits, all while facing radiation, various soldiers, and even some supernatural freaky stuff. Now, I'm not gonna get too into the story here because that's not what this is really about. However, I do want to say I really did enjoy the story. The game gives you several options, including playing with Russian dialogue or English. I did opt to play in English and I was pleasantly surprised. Every character is voiced, and the voice acting is great in my opinion. Subjective, of course, but the characters were wildly different and fleshed out, especially for such a smaller game. And I felt really compelled to seek out all the extra dialogue in the game, even if it didn't pertain to trophies and completion. The game takes place over 25 days, kinda giving it like a pseudo-roguelite type vibe, where you can send your team out on missions for various supplies while you tackle something else yourself. Most of the time, you'll prioritize side quests and main story missions while your crew is out gathering resources. Make sure you have a solid percentage chance for their success as well. I don't even know what happens if they fail. So most of the time you'll be listening to atmospheric noises, wildlife, insects, radiation buzzing, stuff like that. But there's also a reprieve from that with the guitar twanging in the base building sections and some story beats or menus. Like here, check this out. I don't know about you guys, but I love that. Very calm and soothing, yet somehow abandoned and lonely too. Great piece of music. Overall, the trophy list is pretty straightforward and there's honestly not much to worry about. The majority of them revolve around completing side quests, recruiting the extra characters, base building and crafting, and of course, story progression. A lot of these are missable, but technically aren't because the game features this really cool mechanic that allows you to go back and change the choices you've made through a really cool portal system. There's actually a trophy for doing that as well. So again, nothing crazy to worry about there. No difficulty trophies or multiple playthroughs required. Not too big of a commitment either. That's kind of really why I liked it. That being said, I want to move on to the time factor. Not how long it took, but how the time spent towards the platinum actually felt while playing. I feel that they really nailed the pacing of this game. Whether you're focused on the story, going around and upgrading your base and all your gear, or just rushing for the platinum trophy, I enjoyed every hour spent getting the platinum here. If I remember correctly, this is going to take you anywhere from 10 to 20 hours. But man, it did not feel like that at all. The lower end of the number is with skipping dialogue and not doing much extra, but I enjoyed the writing to the point where I couldn't even imagine skipping the lines. This is definitely not one of those games where they're slogging along the whole way towards completion. Getting each trophy felt great, and there wasn't too much or too little time between them. You could pretty confidently start a new day in the game knowing you're going to earn a trophy by the end of it. Unless you're just doing a quick supply run for your base and team. And that is what I think made this time so enjoyable for me. Base building and crafting was really solid, keeping your team fed and happy felt great, and even just building cosmetics to make your abandoned factory of a base just a bit more cozy all felt really nice. As trophy and achievement hunters, time is usually an important thing to think about, and this one felt more relaxing. It wasn't too daunting that I felt like I needed to move quickly. I felt like I could really enjoy myself while making consistent progress. And that's the kind of pacing I love to see when I'm looking for a new platinum to go after. 20 hours of fun and enjoyment with a platinum at the end feels a lot better consistently than a 60-hour plat that you only enjoyed until the grind, or until that one part that makes the trophy list really annoying, right? Now for the real question, did getting the platinum on this game really give my brain the happy chemical, or am I still depressed? The answer to that is actually a little bit tricky with this one. While I completely enjoyed my entire time spent with Chernobylite, as a whole, it honestly wasn't that rewarding. Yes, I felt great when I got a new teammate, and yes, it felt great when I got a new weapon or upgraded my base's power production. All of that felt really nice in the moment, and I think that's what we really look for in games, right? But when I finished the game and looked at the platinum trophy, I was genuinely satisfied. However, it's not something I was necessarily proud of or felt like I overcame any kind of challenge. But I was satisfied, and it was definitely money well spent. Now, I played on typical standard difficulty. Upping that to hard may be a completely different story, while running it through on easy could make it totally lame and boring. But the face value of this game is that it holds up. Yeah, the rush we get when finishing some 10-hour grind on our last trophy can be amazing, but the time it takes to get there can be agonizing, while this is just consistent. That's the word I like for this the most, consistent. I want to talk about things that really stuck out to me about the game during my experience. Now, when I say things that stuck out, it could be good, bad, or even just odd and weird. These aren't always going to be entirely indicative of my experience with the game, but things that I spent more time thinking about after it was over. So remember, we're looking at this as a smaller indie title, not comparing it to some huge AAA game with a massive budget, right? That being said, some of these mechanics really stuck out to me for something that was kickstarted. Sure, these aren't new mechanics, but the way they handled them and the way they implemented them really had me having a good time. Their base building was pretty standard, decent depth with a good variety of fun items, but your base has this requirement of meeting various needs to satisfy other items or even your teammates' health and happiness. There's comfort, power, air quality, radiation security, and having enough sleeping places for each body. While that may seem like a fair bit of micromanagement, it really isn't bad at all, especially if you're grabbing any resources you come across out in the field. I spent a lot of time base building just for fun. You do come back here between every mission. You can grow food, craft ammunition, make new weapons, and even mod your weapons with a pretty solid workbench system. Again, especially for being an indie title. Now, something I was really impressed by was the way they did their perks. In Chernobylite, you level up. Pretty standard, right? Cool, whatever, no big deal. But when you do, you get a skill point, but you can't just go spend it all willy-nilly. I mean, you're a Ukrainian scientist. You don't have all these crazy awesome survival skills, right? So you actually need to train with the teammates that you've been recruiting, which even comes with a cool little training mission relevant to the skill you're learning. Also another incentive to go out and recruit these guys, aside from the obvious trophies. The skills range from bigger radiuses on your pulse tool and resource-focused skills, to weapon proficiency and even more inventory spaces. All of these skills make sense with who you learn them from as well, which is just a really nice touch to detail. I will say, knowing what skills you want and not knowing when you're going to recruit that person can create a small amount of frustration, but I still think it was a pretty unique take on skill points. The gunplay is pretty it worked for what it was. Honestly, most of my kills were stealth anyways, but you can definitely tell that the shooting mechanics and the way it feels, not necessarily a top priority. Which is definitely okay, but it's something you'll for sure notice. Last thing here, I would hope it's been patched out by now, but on the last mission, I did have a really weird bug that forced me to load a prior save if I wanted a certain outcome, which I did, even though it wasn't necessary for the trophies. It wasn't a huge deal, I didn't lose too much, and I could have went on without it anyways, but I did think it was worth mentioning. Overall, I really enjoyed my time with Chernobylite. It wasn't a hard platinum, but it was very fun and a consistently enjoyable journey. The characters and dialogue really kept me engaged. I'm a big fan of spooky, so the supernatural aspect was nice as well, and the base building was great. No issues or game-breaking bugs to worry about, with a really solid amount of freedom while still being able to get all the trophies. One of my biggest gripes is when a trophy list encourages or requires a very specific type of playstyle that doesn't really match what I do. Yeah, we're all looking for the shiny plat and we burn through stuff we don't want to, but we still want to have fun playing games, right? All in, I completely recommend this as something to pick up and add to your platinum collection. If there's any specific games you'd like to see a video done for, comment on the video with your suggestions. I've also linked my PSNP in the description so you can go through my platinums as well to see if there's anything on there you'd like content made for. So, what should I play next? Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one.